So if you've seen my videos, you know that I love to encourage UX writers to dive into the depths of language and linguistics because after all, this is our toolbox, right? And understanding all the facets of language can help us so much with becoming great UX writers. And today I want to spark your curiosity by showing you some stylistic elements you can use in your UX writing. So if you're ready for that, let's go. Hi, my name is Kat and I teach people about writing in tech, and on this channel you will find everything that you need to know, especially about UX writing. So if you want to learn more about that, make sure you hit subscribe and ring the bell. Now, stylistic elements, or stylistic devices as they are called correctly, are constructs that we can use to make our language more vivid and colorful. And to give you a proper definition of that, they are powerful writing techniques used to capture our imagination and create more engaging writing. And for UX writing, these stylistic elements can do a lot. They can make your copy more engaging and more enjoyable, and they can also encourage users to interact more with the product in a very, very subtle and natural and conversational way. Also, they can help us establish a unique brand voice and make our digital products more recognizable and memorable. And they have amazing positive effects on our brain. They can, for example, help build a more personal connection between the user and the product, and therefore they help us enhance user loyalty and satisfaction. So what we basically do with the intentional use of stylistic devices is we provide more creative and well-crafted language that is, of course, more likely to stick in the user's mind, and with that it also makes our brand more memorable. Now let's take a look at some classic and common stylistic devices and see when and how we can use them in UX writing. And let's start with one of the most popular ones, which is metaphors. Metaphors basically use a term or phrase to represent something else, and they suggest a likeliness or an analogy between what we say and what we actually mean. Metaphors can help us with abstracting complex ideas into way simpler, more relatable terms. Let's take a look at an example to see what that means. Imagine you want to describe the scope of features of your product, okay? And instead of saying, "This tool has multiple features that help you with your project management," you could say, "This tool is the Swiss Army knife of project management. It has everything you need in one place." Now with this, you can explain a complex idea or feature in a more relatable and simpler way, okay? We make it more relatable. And what metaphors do in our brain is they facilitate cognitive processing by linking unfamiliar or non-meaningful concepts to familiar ones and meaningful ones. They also engage the user's imagination and the creativity of them, because reading something like, "Hey, we have so many features," is definitely not as emotionally powerful as reading something like, "Hey, this is the Swiss Army knife of project management," okay? It immediately creates strong images in our brain, which makes it so powerful and tangible. Of course, if you use metaphors, make sure they are still understandable for your target audience. Make sure you use them in a place where clear information and instructions are not a priority, and generally also make sure that they don't cause any confusion, okay? Next, we have comparisons. Now, comparisons in a broader sense involve putting two or more entities against each other to highlight their similarities. Now, let's take a look at an example to see what that is all about. Let's say you are asked to describe the USP of a data analysis tool, and instead of saying, "Data analysis with our tool is easy," which is not very strong, you could say, "With us, data analysis is like a walk in the park." And with that, you help users understand a feature or a benefit by comparing it to something more familiar and, again, something more meaningful, something more emotionally powerful, which again helps us making new information more relatable and easier to comprehend. And by the way, if we didn't say, "With us, data analysis is like a walk in the park," but "With us, data analysis is a walk in the park," we would have a metaphor, right? So comparison kind of has the same effect as a metaphor, but metaphors tend to be more abstract, okay? While comparisons are clearer and more literal. So if your brand voice is more fact-based and neutral, go for comparisons. And if your brand voice is more creative and figurative, opt for metaphors. A third stylistic device that is great for UX writing is what we call an allusion. Allusions are indirect references to well-known characters or events or works like literature or art or history, okay, without explicitly mentioning them. So this is a bit tricky because allusions rely on the reader's ability to recognize and understand the reference, okay? Metaphors and comparisons also rely on that, but allusions are a lot more abstract. Again, let's check out an example to make this even clearer for you, okay? So imagine you want to describe the effectiveness and the strength of a cybersecurity system in a tech product. Instead of saying, our cybersecurity system effectively neutralizes digital threats, which is like very, factual and technical, you could say our cybersecurity system is the kryptonite to digital threats. And by making this reference, we make our way into the user's brain and their memories, maybe with one of their favorite movies. So we create a sense of familiarity on a very personal level, right? Again, use this device carefully and keep in mind the effectiveness of your allusion depends on the user's knowledge of the kind of thing you refer to. So make sure your allusions are recognizable to your target audience, and also don't use them in a part of your UX writing that is mostly about clarity, okay? So this, for example, is great for headlines, it's great for feature descriptions, but for copy parts that are mostly supposed to give users clear instructions, this is not the perfect choice, okay? This is very creative. So the last three devices were all about comparing our product features, our USPs, etc., to things the user is already familiar with, okay? Emotional concepts or experiences. Let's switch it up with the next one, which is personification, because personification is a little different. Personification is all about giving human characteristics to non-human things. This can help us make products and brands and features feel more alive and relatable, which again helps us build a closer connection with the user. Time for an example. Let's say you want to tell your users about the safety of your cloud storage service. Instead of just saying, our cloud storage service is safe and secure, you could say, with its safety and security features, our cloud storage solution has your back. So the cloud storage does something our friends or family would do, right? It has our back. This makes our copy feel way more personal, and it will also help make your product feel more friendly, relatable, and approachable, okay? This is especially true for anything very technical. However, please watch out, because overusing this can make your writing feel very gimmicky and constructed. And of course, using the style element should align with the overall brand voice that you use. So if you use a more neutral, factual, technical tone, personification might be a little too much, okay? Now let's check out the last stylistic device for today, which is something that is never too much, works like a charm for UX writers, and is probably one of my favorite stylistic devices in UX writing, and that is rhetorical questions. Now, rhetorical questions are questions that we ask not to actually learn new knowledge, but for the effect of getting engagement or to make a point. In UX writing, we can use them to, for example, engage our users, or also to provoke thoughts or reflection on the user side. Rhetorical questions are also great when you want to achieve a conversational tone, because it absolutely sounds like the interface is actually talking to the user. Let's also take a look at an example here. Imagine you want to introduce a new update or feature in an app that allows users to create a customized to-do list. And instead of just saying, our latest update lets you create customized to-do lists, you could say something like, want to make sure you really get your stuff done. Our latest update lets you create customized to-do lists. And with that, you can engage users directly. You refer to a certain issue or problem that they have, and by that, you show empathy to the user. And also by addressing the user directly, talking to them, asking them a question, the copy feels more personal, more conversational, more natural. But Please keep in mind that the questions should not be too obvious or constructed. Instead, make sure they are really relevant concerning the situation and the real needs of the users. So these were some examples for stylistic devices that we can use in UX writing to add some sugar and spice to our copy, okay? So they can do a lot for us. However, there are also certain downsides and risks of using them. For example, we know that overly creative and culturally specific references might not translate well across different user groups and may lead to confusion. Also, using stylistic devices excessively can make your copy more complex and even hinder accessibility and usability, because users have to think twice about the meaning of your copy. And ultimately, we also know that these stylistic devices may also take up more space in the interface, simply because most of them make our text longer. So there's also the risk of crowding the interface. In order to minimize these risks, there are a couple of things that we should keep in mind. For example, please make sure you fully understand the demographics, the cultural backgrounds, and the preferences of your user base. This knowledge will definitely help you choosing stylistic devices that actually work for your audience without causing confusion or even offense. And of course, as always in UX writing, please always prioritize clarity over creativity. The primary goal of UX writing is to support users in navigating through a digital product, not to showcase your personal writing skills. This is especially important because you should always make sure that your copy is accessible. So definitely avoid complex stylistic constructions that might be difficult to understand for users with cognitive disabilities, okay? Overall, as a rule of thumb, always ensure that your use of stylistic devices supports users in understanding what you're trying to tell them, instead of making your copy harder to understand. Of course, apart from that, align your use of stylistic devices with your brand's tone and voice. Make them part of your voice and tone guide, because inconsistent use can dilute and harm your brand identity instead of helping users to memorize it. As usual, make sure you test your copy, make sure you collect and analyze feedback on how stylistic devices and more creative language works for your target audience, and see what kind of effect it has on your target audience, okay? So this was our little trip into the land of language for UX writers. How did you like it? Let me know in the comments. Also, make sure you hit like and subscribe if you like this video. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok, where I also post free tips and tricks about writing in tech and especially UX writing. And as always, keep on writing, enjoy the process, and I hope to see you sometime soon.